Hello everybody, in today's video we're going to be going over your February forecast for the year of 2021. We're going to be giving you your temperature forecast, your precipitation forecast, and then at the end of the video we'll have your snowfall forecast for this month, and it looks like it will be a very active and potentially cold month for many of you guys over much of the country. So let's get right into it here, and let's start off with your current temperature anomaly forecast. This is going from the first day of February to the last day of February, and this is pretty much going to take us through the entire month of February all the way through March. And speaking of March and the springtime, we will be releasing some exclusive and new spring forecast graphics in terms of severe weather and also temperature graphics as we head into the summer. As we start to talk about more severe thunderstorm events, we'll definitely have a lot more graphics in terms of tornado risk, hail risk, wind risk, and all of that coming up this spring. So there's definitely a lot to get excited for in terms of the severe weather season. Now, I'm expecting above average temperatures, and it's only going to be slightly above average in this light shade, but it's going to be above average nonetheless for these areas from the south central plains up through the central plains and then back through parts of the southeast, and that's where I'm looking at above normal temperatures, warmer than normal conditions. And this is mainly just because we will be dealing with a fairly prominent ridge throughout the central part of the country and then a dip back in the eastern United States and the western United States. Quite an unusual pattern, but that should lead to some warmer air staying to the south and also staying confined to the central areas, and then some colder air on either sides of the United States. Now, here is that moderately above average region, and this is where it's going to be even warmer than normal than in that yellow shade. This is where you could be dealing with maybe 2 to 4 degrees above average on if you were to average that out through the entire 30 or actually 28 days for February, and you're looking at that moderately above average area, and that includes parts of Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Missouri, Kansas, Nebraska, and even a little bit of southwestern Iowa there. And then we're looking at more of those very warm temperatures kind of moving up into the central part of the country, and that's again mainly due to that ridge of high pressure that should stay fairly centered over the central United States. You will have a couple passages of colder temperatures, and this is not going to be for the entire month, but at least for the first and middle part of the month we will have a fairly prominent ridge that should bring in some of those warmer temperatures from the south and push them further to the north. So let's start talking about where it's going to be colder than normal, and that includes much of the western United States from the plains westward and then up through the northern plains and into the Great Lakes. That's also where I'm looking at slightly below normal temperatures or slightly colder than normal temperatures. And again, that includes much of the western United States and then back through into the Great Lakes. This is mainly because we're going to have a trough that's going to be fairly prominent at least for the first 10 to 15 days of February, and because it's a shortened month, there's less time in the month. And of course, if you have a very cold 10 to 15 days to start off the month, you most likely will end off the month at least below average, and it looks like it could actually be quite below average for some of those regions, maybe 10 to 15 degrees below average on some of those individual days. And when you get a couple of those days in a row, that'll really bring down your average temperatures quite down for that month. And I'm really think that's going to focus over the western United States. Watch out if you live in the Northeast or the Ohio Valley in the Mid-Atlantic. You guys could also get into some of those cooler temperatures, although I think they will be mixed in with some warmer temperatures as you get some systems to move up to the north and to the west. That should bring across some warmer temperatures out ahead of it, at least for a couple of days. And then as those systems move by, you will get some colder air on the backside. So it's going to be kind of more of those kind of progressive type of storms that move in and move out and bring cold and warm temperatures on either side of the system. That's really going to make up your temperature forecast if you live in that area of the country. Here's that moderately below average region, and that includes pretty much everywhere from the Rockies westward, and that's where I'm looking at it being even colder than normal. This is where you could be maybe 2 to 4 degrees below normal for the entire month, and this is where you're going to be fairly persistently cold for much of the month. And then here's that well below average region, and that's for the Intermountain west, so away from the coastal areas and moving through parts of the western Rockies and back through into parts of the interior western United States. That's where I'm looking at well below average temperatures. This is where it's going to be consistently colder than normal, especially for the first 20 days of February, maybe even through the entire month of February, depending on how long that trough sits over the western United States. So I'm expecting it to be rather chilly if you live in the western part of the country. Here's that precipitation forecast again going through the month of February, and I'm expecting slightly below normal precipitation, and that stretches through the entire expanse of the plains and then down through the southeast. That's where I'm thinking it's going to be drier than normal, so that could also impact some of your snowfall for this month, although I think generally it will just be drier than normal. You add that with those slightly warmer than normal temperatures, and it's going to be a fairly mild and pretty bland month for a lot of these regions where you're going to get one or two systems to move through, although I do think it'll be drier than normal, not so much precipitation compared to what you're used to for this month. Here's that moderately below average region that hugs the Gulf Coast and then back through into the Dakotas. That's those two areas where I'm looking at even moderately below average precipitation. Most of the storms should slide south of the Dakotas and north of the Gulf states, so that should allow kind of those areas to get in on more of those drier conditions. You might get a couple storms to roll through, although I still think compared to your averages, you'll end up below what is typical for this time of year. Here's that above average region, and that includes areas from the Rockies westward, and then also another area surrounding the Great Lakes, the Ohio Valley, and the interior Northeast. If you're wondering why I didn't include the coastal Northeast into that, it's just because we might be dealing with a few more systems in terms of actual precipitation moving north and west of that area, and then kind of moving to the north and to the east. I still do think there will be a couple that slide to the south, but the majority of these might be more of an Ohio Valley, Great Lakes type system, so that's why I angled that above average precipitation over that region. And then for the western United States, we've already seen a lot of precipitation in late January, and there's really nothing to say that that pattern will end anytime soon. It'll lessen up. You won't see as much precipitation, although as we know, the western United States does not expect a lot of rainfall or precipitation in general, so you get a little bit of rainfall that'll push you at least closer to normal, and you get a little bit more rainfall, you're already above average. So it doesn't take a lot to push these guys over the average line. So once you get maybe just an inch or two of precipitation for this month, then you're pretty much above average for that month. So I am expecting a couple storms to roll through, kind of like what we saw with Winter Storm Orlena that moved through the western United States, brought a lot of snow to the Rockies and the higher elevations. I don't think it'll be to that magnitude, but a couple more of those events in a lesser magnitude could occur this February. And then here's that moderately above average region. This is where I'm highlighting for the heaviest precipitation this February, and that includes parts of Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Nevada, and into Utah, where I think there will be a consistent stream of moisture moving through there, and that could occur in the form of rain or snow depending on elevation. So here's my snowfall forecast for the month of February. And those same areas that I was expecting to be drier and warmer are going to be seeing, of course, below average precipitation and snowfall in general. And if you live in the southern states that typically don't see too much snow this month and in February, this really doesn't apply to you guys. It just kind of lessens the chance that you will see one of those rare occurrences where you do see snow. So this does not include all of these areas. I'm not saying that these areas are going to see snow. It's just that even if you were to see snow, it would be less likely this month than in any other month. So here's those above average regions, and you see two areas, one for the western United States, one for the northeastern quarter of the United States. The one for the western United States mainly just because of the active precipitation, and mainly in the mountains this applies to, where I'm expecting slightly above average snowfall. And then also for the Ohio Valley, the Great Lakes, the northeast there, that's where I'm expecting slightly above average snowfall. We've already seen Winter Storm Orlena dump many inches of snowfall over some of these areas, and that already technically includes for the month of February, and I really won't count that into this. Of course, you will already be above average because of Winter Storm Orlena in a lot of the areas for the month of February, but even storms after that, I think you'll see another 1 or 2 or even 3 of these type of events, not maybe to the magnitude of Orlena, but ones that move in a similar track and bring more snowfall to these areas. So generally, I do think it'll be slightly above average for this month in the northeastern quarter of the United States, from the Great Lakes down through the Tennessee Valley and back through the Northeast. And then here's that moderately above average region, and that includes the Northwest, and that's just because we're going to see an active stream of moisture move through there. You mix that with those colder temperatures, and of course you're going to see more snowfall than normal, and that actually could apply to some of those lower elevation regions near Portland, Seattle, Boise, Idaho. All of those areas could also get in on some of that snowfall action with this upcoming February, and generally it does look quite good if you live in the western United States and haven't seen too much snow in the past couple of winters. This might be your chance. We saw Winter Storm Orlena brought some snow for the higher elevations, and even some of those lower elevations might get in on some of that snowfall. So that will wrap it up for today's video. Please consider liking the video, subscribing, and turning on notifications, as it really helps the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.